Force, a Jedi. All of it. It's all true.
Hello there, my fellow Star Wars fans, and welcome to Star Wars Unleashed, where we discuss everything Star Wars. Since this is our first video, I want to make it very enjoyable for you. So we're going to explore the fanfiction story of what if Darth Vader survived Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. How would the galaxy far, far away as we know it change? What events would be altered? And how would our beloved characters react to this? I'm sure his soon-to-be son-in-law Han would be thrilled to meet the real father of Princess Leia. Well, we are about to find out the answers to these questions and more as we make the jump into hyperspace in this alternative fan fiction. And, without further delay, let's punch it. We enter the very familiar scene of Return of the Jedi, where Luke Skywalker is reluctantly dueling Darth Vader. We now find Luke scrambling to hide under the main platform of the Emperor's throne room aboard the second Death Star. His father, no, the Sith Lord Darth Vader, had just told him he would meet his destiny if he did not submit to the dark side. Perhaps Ben and Yoda had been right this entire time. He had tried reaching out to both of his masters through the Force for help, but he got no response. What if Anakin Skywalker was truly dead? Luke could hear Vader's heavy footsteps and mechanical breathing getting closer and closer to him. Even though he used all of his concentration in the Force to try and conceal his Force presence, it would only be a matter of time until the Dark Lord found him, the last Jedi left in the galaxy. Luke knew that this was all a test for him, designed by the Emperor, to submit himself to the dark side or be destroyed. He would have to rise up to his destiny and fight Vader and his master. If Luke failed, he knew his sister would have to finish what he started and embrace the legacy of the Jedi. Vader knew that it would only be a matter of time before either himself or Luke would be dead. This test by the Emperor was meant to be a fight to the death all along, with either the son killing the father or the father killing the son. Either way, Sidious and the dark side would win, and he would have the more powerful Skywalker as his apprentice. But he knew that he was more machine than man now, and that his master truly desired young Skywalker to stand by his side just as he had almost 2 decades ago. Vader knew that he was beyond saving at this point, that redemption was not possible with all the evil deeds he had done to the galaxy. He was trying not to get lost in his thoughts as he searched the darkness for his son, since Luke was attempting to shut himself off from the Force to conceal himself. But all of a sudden, he was inside the young Jedi's head. His feelings were buried deep away, but they were not impenetrable. Luke just needed to be pushed a bit more so that his concentration would break. Vader knew that he was already on the edge about his friends in the rebellion and having to duel his own father. "You cannot hide forever, Luke," Vader said as he began to close in on the location of his son. "I will not fight you," Luke shot back in a defiant yet weakened response. Vader could tell Luke was losing his grasp, and he countered back. "Give yourself to the dark side. It is the only way you can save your friends. Your thoughts betray you. Your feelings for them are strong." There. His concentration was now broken. His mind was now open, as were his thoughts and feelings. Vader had to almost catch himself for what came next. Luke had a sibling, a twin, which meant that he had 2 children that were strongly gifted in the Force. "Especially for your sister. So, you have a twin sister," Vader said with confidence in his voice. "Your feelings have now betrayed her too. Obi-Wan was wise to hide her from me. Now his failure is complete." Vader went on to say, and all Luke could do was stand there helpless and in complete shock in front of his father, who had just unveiled the one truth that Luke swore to protect above all else. But Vader went on, not stopping with the mind assault on his son. If you will not turn to the dark side, then perhaps she will. Before the Force could tell Luke no, his green lightsaber sprang to life as he shouted, "Never!" and began an aggressive assault upon his father. Vader barely had enough time to raise his own crimson blade to defend himself, something he rarely ever had to do as a Sith Lord. Luke grunted loudly as he continued his flurry of attacks. He had never felt such strength like this before. Vader knew all too well that his power in the dark side was fading, and, even worse, growing stronger in Luke with each swing of his lightsaber. The aged and tiring Sith Lord was now backpedaling, even dodging the ever-aggressive strikes from Luke. Vader did not even have a chance to parry any of the incoming blows, with as much power as they had behind them. Soon enough, he found himself on the reactor core balcony, and he was using all of his strength to block and dodge his son. He already knew that he had lost. He gripped the ledge, and he tried to catch his balance as the green blade came down upon him, but with no avail, he was forced to fall back onto the ledge and catch himself and avoid being hit by Luke. It took all he had to hold on and just helplessly look at the face of his son. No, the dark side bear down upon him with a strike that would sever his hand and send it and his lightsaber falling down into the reactor core. All he could do now was fall to the ground and scream in agony as he sensed the shadow approach. All he could think of was how he was in the same situation almost 20 years ago with his master and Count Dooku. The dark side of the Force was now swelling within Luke. He had just defeated the evil Lord Vader, was responsible for so many horrors in the galaxy. The one who had also cut off his own son's hand and traumatized him with the true origins of his parentage. But most importantly, the evil father who had tried to turn him to the dark side, and his sister as well. As the Emperor approached Luke and the fallen Vader, his senses came back to him as he heard the evil laughter. "Your hate has made you powerful," the Sith Lord told him. "Now, take your father's place at my side," he implored. All Luke could do was look from the Emperor to his father and see the severed cybernetic hand. He could not help but look at his own, clenching it, and realizing just how close he had come to being enslaved by the dark side, like his father. He could hear Vader's weakened mechanical breathing. In the fleeting moment, the darkness left Luke, and he was replaced with resolve from the light side of the Force. Deactivating his lightsaber, he turned towards the Emperor. "Never," he said, throwing his weapon away now, as the Force had guided him to. "I'll never turn to the dark side." He had never felt such enlightenment or resolve before. "You have failed, Your Highness." Now he could feel Vader's gaze upon him. "I am a Jedi, like my father before me." He then took a deep breath, as he could see the scowl upon the Emperor's face, and the dark side around him growing. "So be it, Jedi," is all he had to say for Luke to know that this fight was far from over. Darth Sidious, Sith Master and Emperor of the Galaxy, now looked upon the last Jedi. His stance in the light side of the Force sickened the Dark Lord. As he slowly raised his hands towards Luke, he summoned the dark side of the Force and told him, "If you will not be turned, then you will be destroyed." Within an instant flash, blue lightning shot from the Emperor's fingertips and raced towards Luke. Out of pure instinct, he tried to raise his hands and defend himself. Surprisingly, it worked at first, but then the intensity grew, and Luke was knocked back by the lightning. Luke had never heard of this power before. Why didn't his masters warn him about it? He then saw his father slowly rise to his feet, hearing his labored, mechanized breathing as he got out of the way of his master's force lightning. "Young fool," the Emperor continued, "only now, at the end, do you understand?" As he continued to blast Luke with more intensified Sith lightning, Sidious was cruel enough to give Luke short breaks, only to torture him more by making it more painful and longer the next time. Luke struggled to hold on to the ledge at this point, as the lightning ran through his body before discharging. All he could do was heavily grunt in pain. How could his father only stand there and watch this? "Your feeble skills are no match for the power of the dark side," the Emperor boasted. He had now closed in on Luke to where he was within mere feet of him. Vader continued to follow his master from behind. Luke knew he didn't have much left in him. The Force only repelled so much of the damage of the pure dark side energy. He was then blasted again. "You have paid the price for your lack of vision," the menacing voice said, followed by yet another blast of lightning. This one, by far the most relentless. "Father, please!" Luke begged, struggling to even say the words. He was now screaming in pure agony at this point from the pain. It was unbearable. He was slamming his fists into the ground. Vader looked upon his son, being tortured by his master. The Emperor went on to declare, "Now, young Skywalker, you will die." All Vader could do was watch the blue smoke rise from Luke's body, knowing that if he tried to intervene, that he would stand no chance against his master in his weakened state and failing suit. The killing strike then came from Sidious, who was now hurling purple Sith lightning at Luke with full intensity. Luke continued to scream in agony, and Vader could sense the life force fading from his son. What would his Padme think of this? The father of their own son standing idle while he was being tortured and killed. He couldn't stand to think of it any longer. He loved Padme, just as he had loved Luke. Part of her was in him after all. She wasn't truly dead, like his master had lied to him so many times over the years. Anakin looked at Luke, and then the Shadow, who was fully entranced in the dark side. For the first time in a long time, he summoned the light side of the Force to aid him, and with all of his strength, he lifted the Shadow over his head, began to carry him towards the reactor core. The master of the dark side was so intent on killing, he began to scream and barrage himself and Vader with Force lightning. Luke looked up when the attack was suddenly ceased, and saw his father use the last of his might to hurl the Emperor over the railing into the depths of the reactor core. The lightning resonated in Vader's mask as he watched his former master fall to his death, which followed by an explosion in the reactor core below. With newfound strength, Luke rushed over to his father. The extremely heavy and laboring mechanical breathing was not reassuring to Luke. As he held his father for a brief moment, the Force warned him of impending danger that was imminent. Luke had managed to get Vader to his feet and put his mechanical arm around his shoulder, even though he was doing most of the walking for them. They rushed towards the private hangar bay as quick as Luke could drag his father behind him. The Death Star's alarms had started going off just as they had made it out of the throne room. Luckily, the Emperor's personal shuttle had not been taken yet. Father and son managed to get to the ramp before Anakin collapsed and fell to the bottom of the ramp, dragging Luke with him. Anakin then used what little strength he had left to look up at Luke through the mask of Vader. Before either of them could say anything, the ghost of Ben Kenobi appeared next to them. "It's good to have you back, Anakin," he said, then giving Luke a brief smirk. "Obi-Wan, Luke," Anakin had barely managed to say before going unconscious. Ben then turned to Luke. "He will be fine. The Force has much in store for you and your father. The legacy of the Skywalkers is not over yet." Luke had a surprised look on his face and looked at Ben, but before he could say anything else, the Jedi Master continued. This battle station is doomed, Luke. You must take Anakin to Polis Massa. They will be able to help him there. Knowing the Death Star didn't have much time left, Luke nodded and began to carry his father up into the Imperial shuttle. He then glanced back down and saw Yoda standing next to Obi-Wan, along with another tall Jedi Master figure with long hair and a brown beard. They barely had enough time to escape the exploding Death Star. It was a good thing the shields were up to block the incoming debris. Although he was exhausted, he felt relieved that his father would live to fight another day. The Force had plans for both of them, and Obi-Wan was the perfect person to relay this message. Although Luke would have to ask him who that other Jedi figure was when he got the chance. Getting the coordinates for Polis Massa, Luke punched them into the nav computer. He then reached for his comm to contact Leia and let her know that he would not quite yet be rejoining the rebellion. But his hand had only touched the recovered lightsaber on his belt. He had not brought his comm with him when he surrendered to the Empire on the forest moon of Endor. He would have to try and find another way to contact his sister. He closed his eyes to focus and reach out to her through the Force as the shuttle jumped into hyperspace. And cut. Alright guys, that's it for part 1. When planning our content, I originally estimated this fan fiction would last about 5 episodes. When bringing it together and finishing it, I realized a high probability and potential for much more than that.
Never tell me the odds.
Thank you so much for watching our first official video and the launch of one of many fan fiction stories to come. I want our channel to grow into something amazing, but I need your help in doing so. Please give us a like, comment with your thoughts and suggestions below, and subscribe for more amazing Star Wars content. Custom made just for you. Our next episode will be my honest review for the recently released novel, Thrawn Alliances, which will release the evening of Monday, August the 13th, Eastern Standard Time. It will be a good one, and will explain a great many things about the Star Wars galaxy of the unknown regions, the Chiss Ascendancy, Anakin and Padme's story of meeting Grand Admiral Thrawn before he was a Grand Admiral, and how Darth Vader has to travel back to the very place with our one and only favorite Chiss. Stay tuned guys, it's going to be a great one, don't miss it. Again, thank you so much for watching Star Wars Unleashed. And remember,
Passion, what you have